mortise chisels and a different way to use them, and some things I think most of you don't know about till now. Let's quickly talk about the difference between mortise, bench and carpenter chisels, because I see some don't really understand this. As you can see, the mortise chisels is very different to the others. There's some things about the design some people don't understand. Bench, also known as paring chisels, have near sharp side bevels. That's so you can get right in there and not bruise the walls of your tails. Paring just really means handwork. Don't want to be using a mallet on your perfectly sharpened chisels. For surgical use only. You wouldn't use a club hammer on a scalpel, would you? The handle also tells you what it's for. The reason I'm saying this is I see a lot of peeps trying to do dovetails and wondering why theirs looks like chip and nail furniture, a train wreck. Carpenter chisels have a massive side bevels. If you're going to use them for fine work like dovetails, you're going to turn your tails into a ripped out fireplace. Try getting right into the corners of a towel with those whopping side bevels. Carpenter's chisels, aka beta chisels I call them, are mainly used for smashing out hinge mortises and the likes, or hogging out waste. Mortise chisels, apart from the heft and the girth, there's something different about mortise chisels. Maybe it's just me. I'm one of those guys as a child took everything apart looking for how something works. Looking at a mortise chisel, this was my thinking. There's actually 5 possible cutting sides to the chisel to cut a mortise, and this is the reason they're square and parallel. But it seems some snowflake rainbow fart got involved and turned this into a show. Let me show you what I mean. I've not ever heard of this before. I have made it up in my head thinking this is a thing, but it makes sense to me. Think about it, you've got a square object trying to cut a square hole effectively. Having 3 sharp cutting edges is a good idea in my opinion. Saves time and makes for a nice smooth for glue ups, which is important because you've got long grain to long grain action going on there for your gluing up, so it's stronger. You're thinking, I need to polish up 3 sides of each chisel. That. Please tell me you're kidding. Well, no, you don't. You just need to hone the edges. And I say hone, not sharpen. You don't really want to be removing a great deal of anything. You just want to polish it up so it cuts. I mean, you can feel it when you rub your finger over the edge once you've done it, that it's got that kind of sound feeling to it. You know that it's sharp. And here's my sexy assistant to show you what I mean. When you're levering and moving that chisel backwards and forwards, it's also shaving the walls of the mortise. You're thinking, yeah, sweet idea, I'm going to give that a go. So you reach for your Narix mortise chisels that you've never used, and then of issues. Off the bat, is it with all these fascias on my grind? Is it with the bloody thing wanting to slide away from my line every mallet blow? Why the hell is this bloody thing slipping in the guide? After hours of trying to work this out, I found out the chisel is tapered. And it's not just Narix, it's European chisels in general. I could only find 2 brands on the market of mortise chisels that have parallel sides, and then I found a 3rd brand. But everything from Europe I found has tapered sides of a variance between 0.5mm to even 1mm. Divide that either side of the chisel, of course, but that's a lot, and that explains why mortise chisels don't fit in any honing guides, and why the bevels are on the... I did actually email Narix to find out what the crack is, why is this, but then I could see on their page this is actually a thing. They never bothered replying as well, so they're going under a bus. This is actually a feature. No I thought this feature is for those that have problems with their chisel twisting when they're using the mallet smashing it into the wood. So I was like, hell yeah, I'm going to check every single chisel I've got, see if this is a thing. Not really, there's a slight variance, but nothing I'd really complain about. After all, it's not surgery, is it? Sometimes I get asked to do things by hand, hence why I bought these Narix chisels, but the job fell through. Well, on my quest to solve this situation, I did find a 3rd option, better option, a cheaper option than the other 2, which was the Lille Nissen and the Veritas PMV 11 blades. It's not often I get asked to do mortise and tenon by hand. I'd sooner choose the Domino.
We happy? Yeah, we happy.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just come.
Why don't all chisel manufacturers do this? Well, that's such a great idea. As you can see, the handle of that lifts the chisel. Now, if you're trying to flatten the back, you'll round over your business end easily. This was a bit of a strange choice, design choice. That hollow part, I would have thought you would have made that one solid part. So far so good. But that does make, for flattening the back, polishing the back, so much more of a pleasure instead of a pain of a job that you don't want to do. Quick tip though, if you're using the sharpening stones, when you're getting close to knowing you're about to finish with your grit, don't rub it backwards and forwards like a posh. Just pull it back on off the stone, and then have a look. You'll see it doesn't have that really opaque look to it, and it's just a bit more shinier. I think that's the reason most people don't like sharpening stones, because it feels like they're not actually doing their job. I feel that those stones cut so much sharper, they produce a lot more swarf, so you'll basically seem to be effectively like grinding the chisel between cut metal and the ceramic plate. I must stress this though, that what works for me might not work for you. You might find the complete opposite. That's how you must remember when you're watching any videos on woodworking. Take it with a pinch of salt, try it. If it's not working for you, look for another idea and go forth and multiply that way. Now, if you're one of these people that find every time you're cutting mortise by hand with a mortise chisel, it's twisting, two techniques you can do. One is to mark out your lines and follow those lines about 3 mil apart and place your sharp end on that line, and you shouldn't go wrong. Second, and this for me is why a mortise chisel needs to be square, is that when you're looking at the side of the mortise chisel and it's going into the wood, you shouldn't see any gaps, spaces, shadow type lines. It means the side of your chisel isn't going in square to the wall of your mortise, it's twisting. That twist could be because you haven't ground the business end to a flat square grind too. So yeah, the only other company that I could find that makes parallel sided mortise chisels, Rob Guzman. I've got to hope I pronounced that right. Now this vid will probably come across as a take your tongue out of Rob's arsehole, Ben, or you're doing this for clicks or some shit like that. No, it's really nothing like that. Like I've said, if something's shit, I'll say. I don't care who it is, what brand. As you can see, as that chisel's making the cut, as it's going down, you can see that edge is scraping along the side of the wall of your mortise, right? Now, if that was blunt, I don't think it would be making such a nice job of it, would it? And, well, I can tell you it doesn't. And like I said, I find the chisels need to be absolutely square and parallel for me. Otherwise, yes, I'm getting the chisels twisting because it's only registering off the business end, not the sides of the chisel. As you can see, that's a Narix job with tapered edges like a ripped out fireplace. Just doesn't work for me at all. A quick extra, this is something that always bothers me and I forget when you're leaving out the wood. I do have a terrible habit of rolling over the edge when I want to keep it a nice sharp crisp edge. It doesn't even matter if I'm using shouldered tenons. I'd rather do it this way and work to it like that. It's a bit slower, but I just know those walls are nice and square and beautifully cut. Just to kind of reiterate my point, now if you're looking from the left hand side of that chisel, camera left, while that chisel's going downwards making that cut, if you're looking at the sides of that big square chisel, if you start to see any shadows creeping or gaps creeping, you know you're introducing a twist into the chisel, and you can recuperate the chisel and square it up again as you're going down, and you get a better cut. Last but not least, I don't know if Rob actually does this on purpose, but his chisel's priced cheaper than the other high-end chisels, and it comes in just underneath the price where you don't have to pay any import duties on it, which is fantastic. So let's say that cost you 130 quid. That's what it costs you. You're not going to be paying anything more when it goes across the borders. And they're cheaper than the Linus and Veritas, and way better in my opinion. I'd really like to get my hands on some of his bench chisels, see what they're like. Really good stuff here. A big thank you to Kevin too. Without him, this video wouldn't have happened. Cheers, mate. Appreciate this. If you like my channel, if it brings value to you, consider donating to it via Patreon and become a member. Link below. Be lucky.